Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. We're still waiting for our guest from Ronald McDonald House to join, so please stay tuned. We'll be back with you shortly. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Friday. There it goes. Looks like Mike is with us.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, Mike, give me 1 second here. How are you?
I'm great. I'm getting a little feedback.
How about now? Any better?
Let's see. Yep, it's good
Much
now.
better. Perfect.
Yeah, sorry, I was in a waiting area on Microsoft Edge or something, and I was like, "Why am I?" So I switched over to whatever I'm on now.
No, it's all good. Just making sure we are all live now. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Appreciate you having on.
Of course.
Okay, let me just check here. Okay. All right. So, welcome everybody that is joining either live in our session right now or on one of our social platforms. We appreciate you having on today. For the first time in a while, we're actually going live with our podcast sessions. And Mike Callahan from Ronald McDonald House is so graciously offered his time to tell his story about his time at Ronald McDonald House. Mike, I want to give you the floor. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, hey, everybody, I'm Mike Callahan. I am a father to Jack, and I live in Charlottesville, Virginia, with my family and a healthy 10-year-old Jack. But I think the story I'm going to tell today is about when he was 3 years old and the journey that we went on.
Perfect. So I'm going to give the floor to you, and then we'll open up to Q&A afterwards. So by all means, dive in whenever you're ready.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I'm a father of Jack, and my wife Emily and I, we're living in Charlottesville, Virginia, with Jack when he was a 3-year-old boy, seemingly healthy and happy and growing up strong. And we, in the late fall of 2018, noticed that he started to complain that his bottom was kind of bothering him, and we weren't sure what was going on. So we went to the doctor a couple times, and they said he probably has pinworms, which I guess people get in daycare settings. But anyway, it was kind of peculiar because the test came back negative, and we just kind of wrote it off to a little kid potty training who's not maybe doing the best with his hygiene. But fast forward to January of 19, so a couple months later, he started to complain that his left leg hurt, and he complained over the course of several days that his leg was hurting, and it was getting worse and it was getting worse. And so we had a couple visits to the doctor, and they thought he had an infection in his hip. So after a weekend in which he basically just stopped walking altogether and was crying in pain most of the weekend, we ended up at the University of Virginia Medical Center emergency department, and people kept coming in and asking questions, and no one really knew what was going on. So they said, we need to get an MRI of your son, of Jack, and see what's going on in his midsection. So my wife and I thought, okay, fine. They'll find an infection. We'll treat it, whatever. We'll move on. We went out and got hamburgers, and we're just kind of hanging out. And the MRI tech texted me and said, hey, it's going to take a little bit longer. They've ordered contrast dye here. And, I Google, what does that mean? And everything's about tumors. So I thought, oh no, this something bad might be happening here. So anyway, went back to the waiting room. Doctor finally came out after 2 hours and said, look, we found a grapefruit-sized mass in his pelvis. And of course, this is I don't know, 30-pound person at this point in time. We don't know what it is. There's a good chance it's benign. We're going to do a biopsy and find out what the diagnosis is. So anyway, the next morning we're with Jack in the play area. He's all on pain meds now because he's in just severe pain, and he's playing. And a doctor comes in and says, "Hey, can I have a moment? We got some news about Jack." And I thought, okay, well, you haven't done a biopsy, so you probably don't know yet what the diagnosis is. But she says, "I'm sorry, we have found out that Jack has cancer." And I fell apart on the ground, couldn't move, was bawling, crying. And my wife asked questions. And, one of them was, how do you know it's cancer without the biopsy? She said, he's so small, we caught his lungs at the top of the MRI imagery, and he has metastatic disease in his chest. And so, metastatic stage 4 cancer in a 3-year-old boy. And you're thinking, life's over. Toughest news of my life, toughest moment of my life. And, from there, it was just a whirlwind. Surgery to implant a port, start of chemotherapy, all kinds of things happened in short order. But we kind of went through it. He had what was called a germ cell tumor. We went through the treatment, and it looked like he was getting better, and they were scheduling a surgery to remove what was left. At that point, it was a golf ball sized tumor of, they thought, largely dead cells. Scheduled the surgery to remove it. And, in scheduling that surgery, they found that his blood work showed the cancer might be coming back. So we sort of panic at this point, and they say, we can't do anything else for you at UVA. You need to go to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And so we just scrambled over the course of a weekend. We packed, we threw everything in the car, left our jobs, left the dog with a dog sitter, and just moved our lives to Philadelphia. I didn't even, you're in such a survival mode at that point. You're not thinking about anything other than just get to Philly, get him to the doctor. Let's figure this out. Let's control this. Let's beat this. And so they did another scan of him. They did something with a kind of a biopsy. And we're in a waiting area, a waiting room in interventional radiology at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And a social worker came up and said, hey, you're probably going to be here for a while. And we said, yeah, looks like it. The doctor came in around then and said, you're going to need 3 bone marrow transplants with stem cell transplant. You're going to need potentially radiation. You're going to need another 2 or 3 rounds of chemotherapy. And when all this is over, you have to stay 3 months within an hour of the hospital. You can't go anywhere. So we're here for 8 or 9 months. And I just panicked. And it was the most panic-filled moment of the whole journey, because I'm thinking, we have no place to live. We have no income. This is going to cost a fortune. I don't know anyone here. It was the first moment almost of the whole journey of just like sheer panic. Like, what am I going to do right now? Like, even what am I going to do tonight? I haven't even thought of where I'm going to stay tonight. And the social worker said, we'll get you a tour of the Ronald McDonald House. And that, kind of for me felt like a moment where everything started to click and change and improve from that time forward, because the treatment at CHOP was incredible. And the Ronald McDonald House, if you haven't been there, is unbelievable. I mean, it's not lodging. It's not a hotel. We had a beautiful room, really 2-bedroom suite that we stayed in. But, more than that, it was community, other families going through the same thing we were. It was warm meals. It was transportation. It was activities for the kids, music, art, movies, etc. And we just became a part of the Ronald McDonald House community. And it's really what gave us strength to kind of get through the next, 8 or 9 months of treatment. I could go into detail about that. if people want it, because it was pretty hairy. Bone marrow transplant in children is really, really rough. You're sick. You're throwing up constantly. Your blood counts crash. You have no protection against infections. You're essentially almost a bubble in a bubble, just avoiding all the outside world for 3 months. Um, and of course, one of us would stay with Jack at night while the other went back to the Ronald McDonald House, and that's how we got through. We got through with the help of the Ronald McDonald House and the incredible medical team at CHOP. So, that's really my story. It kind of ended with a bill of good health for Jack. The tumor was removed. The treatment was successful. We got to go home. And of course, that was in that time frame. You can think of what was about to be on the horizon, which was the COVID pandemic. We got home at the end of February 2020, thinking back to work and back to life, and nope, not so fast. So, that was another layer of trauma on top of trauma. And but really, it was our friends at the Ronald McDonald House that still were there for us, and we stayed in touch with them, and we all kind of got through the whole time in our lives together. So I can't say enough good things about what that organization's meant to me and my family. Really kind of kept us whole and intact while going through a really hellacious experience.
No, that's amazing, and thank you for sharing that. Um, Part of what we're trying to do is help our community understand really what the mission is of Ronald McDonald House for people that aren't aware. So if you could speak to a bit on that, I would greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely. So, a little bit of the history, if you go back about 50 years now, there was a player for the Philadelphia Eagles whose daughter had leukemia, and there was fundraising that was done, and they were looking for something to support, and they kind of came across this vision of Audrey Evans at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia to create a home for the families of sick children. So they weren't sleeping in hospital hallways and spending all their savings on lodging. So that's really where the mission began. McDonald's, of course, came in as well with really important financial support. And the first Ronald McDonald House started right there in West Philadelphia. It's all over the world now. And it really is about providing support for the families of sick children. It's not just a bed, in a clean room. It's kind of just anything a family really needs when they're in that dire situation of a child with a life-threatening illness. They step up and they support you. So I think, I'm actually the board president of the Ronald McDonald House in Charlottesville, Virginia, which serves UVA Children's Hospital. That's how strongly I feel about it. I've dedicated myself to giving back. But I really think that what we're doing is taking care of the family while the hospital is taking care of the sick child. And we work together with our hospital partners in doing that. So that's the mission. And just some basic facts about it. At least I think most houses are pretty much the same. You have to be about an hour or more away from the hospital. Your home has to be about an hour or more away to be eligible to stay in the Ronald McDonald House. And you can stay there throughout your child's medical treatment. We were there for a long haul stay. A lot of people are there for months on end, some even more than a year. Also, some, childhood cancer is not just like you get over a flu and it's over. It's an ongoing, lifelong thing in terms of follow-up care and appointments. And so, we also provide support for families who have to travel back for those clinic appointments. And so, yeah, that's what we're all about: meeting the family where they're at, supporting them, and really keeping them strong to take care of their child.
Thank you for that. I was just there this morning at the Philadelphia location. We're still prepping to do the big installation that we're going to be doing in October, which I'll get to in a little bit. Um, but tell us a little bit about how you ended up at the Philadelphia location, being as that you're not a Philadelphia native.
Yeah, so the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia is a premier hospital globally. When Jack's cancer recurred, which they called it refractory, it means it came right back. UVA itself is a premier medical institution, but they could not handle his case. It was too rare. And we really needed the highly specialized treatment that you get at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And so we were told to, consider going to Boston, Philadelphia, or Washington, D.C. for what he would need. And they kind of pushed us towards CHOP. So that's how we ended up there. When we were living at the Ronald McDonald House, and I say like it was our home, we were living there. It wasn't just lodging. But when we were living there on our floor, which is the floor where a lot of kids who go through bone marrow transplant stay, there were families from Pennsylvania, but there were also families from Canada, the Dominican Republic, Croatia, Senegal, Africa. It is, a global, it attracts children from around the globe who, in a lot of cases are down to their last, the last out and last at bat, and you got to beat this thing. This is your last chance. And, that's CHOP's incredible. So I'll shout out CHOP as well for those on this call that are in the Philly area or no Philly. The Ronald McDonald House and CHOP are partners in treating these children and supporting their families. So that's how we ended up there.
Yeah. My family's been very fortunate too. My sister, when she was young, spent a great deal of her time at Children's Hospital. We weren't in Ronald McDonald House because we were close enough to the hospital where, we could just drive back and forth. But CHOP is one of the most amazing hospitals that I've ever been fortunate enough to be in.
Absolutely. It's one of the best run institutions, you'll find. It's incredible.
So one of the gentlemen just commented, his name is Brandon, and he said, thank you for sharing your story. My daughter and wife will be staying at Ronald McDonald House in Columbus, Ohio in August. It's wonderful to hear how well they took care of you during such a tough time. So Brandon, thank you for that.
Absolutely. They'll be well cared for. I can guarantee it.
I was like I was saying earlier, I was just there today, and I was, we were there testing some cabling, and there was this little boy that was trying to play basketball, and he couldn't get the basketball from the machine. So I grabbed it and I handed it to him, and the kid didn't speak a word of English, and I could not tell you what language the child spoke, but being able to play basketball with that child and just see them be so happy. And the parents came over and, just said hi to me. And they also didn't speak English, but, language isn't a barrier there. It's just home is home. Right. And it was, it's just powerful. And I really can't wait for our community to be there, to be able to spend time with the children and just see how impactful of a place that Ronald McDonald House is.
Absolutely. When we first arrived at the house, it was in a traumatic moment and we were scrambling. And when Jack was being treated at the University of Virginia, that's a regional medical center. It draws from West Virginia, Virginia. But there's not a lot of cancer patients there just because childhood cancer is rare. In fact, UVA only diagnoses about one a month. And so Jack didn't know any other kids with cancer throughout his 4-month treatment journey at UVA. We walked into that Ronald McDonald House, and there was a young girl with a NG tube, she had a feeding tube through her nose, a little, tape on her face, and she was bald. And she clearly was battling cancer. And I kind of at first thought, I don't know if this is good for him. I'm a little nervous about this. But we went up to his room that night, and every kid that checks in gets a toy. So he's playing with his little dump truck. And I said, hey, do you notice that little girl? And Jack said, yes. And I said, I think she has cancer. How does that make you feel? And he said, that makes me feel happy. So, he felt alone until we got to the Ronald McDonald House. He really felt alone. And now we were part of a community of kids going through the same thing. And I think there's a feeling of belonging and a feeling of I'm not alone in all this. And one thing I'd encourage everybody is when you go to the Ronald McDonald House, don't go in there expecting to walk on eggshells or being nervous about saying the wrong thing or it is a surprisingly happy place, and a place just filled with joy and love. And it's a place where really hard things happen. I remember there's a family from Roanoke, Virginia, I kind of met and got to know a little bit, and their child passed away from cancer, and they were getting ready to depart the Ronald McDonald House, and I saw them in a group embrace in the cafeteria. Um, and it's a place where people feel comfortable coming up to you and just saying, "Hey, what's your family going through? What's your kid going through?" And I've never really in my entire life felt more connected to the people around me, like more meaningfully part of a community than when I lived at the Ronald McDonald House. So when you all go in there and you get to start to kind of see the mission and touch the mission, just know that yes, there's kids fighting for their lives in there, and families are very stressed and very afraid. But it really is a place of love, and lean into it, and don't be afraid of what you might see, because you're going to see a lot of joy and a lot of love in that place.
Yeah, it's you would never know these kids were sick. Like, I mean, other than, some physical appearance
Hmm.
things, you would never know because they're just so happy. They
Yeah,
just seem to be thrilled to be there. Um,
absolutely.
so how is your son doing?
He is doing great. So he's 10 years old now. I've just learned last night he made for the second year in a row his all-star team for the local Monticello Little League. He's a first baseman and a slugger. He loves baseball. He loves the Phillies, big Phillies guy, big Bryce Harper guy. But
Yeah.
he's doing really well. There's some damage to his body, obviously, and he wears hearing aids because the platinum chemotherapies he received damage his hearing pretty badly. So, all these kids are going to deal for the rest of their lives with the fallout of what happened to them. Um, those that are, fortunate to kind of get through it. But he's doing great. Yeah, and he loves the Ronald McDonald House. We were just over there last Saturday morning for a volunteer service morning, planting flowers, laying out mulch, doing yard work. It's incredible. I'll give back to it for my whole life. Yeah, being here today is giving back to it. I always say yes because of how much it means to me.
No, that's so I wanted you, if you don't mind, talk about a little bit how you did get involved with becoming part of the Ronald McDonald House in your area.
Yeah, so we came back from Jack's medical treatment, and like I said, it was the COVID era, and my work kind of was real light, as was everyone's, I think. And I was looking for a way to give back. Jack was healing, and we got through it. And I know some people want to run away from it and kind of never be part of the childhood cancer community again, and I get that, and I don't judge anyone for that, but I wanted to give back. I just felt like I not only did I feel I needed to, but I fell in love with the community that I had become a part of. And so, yeah, I reached out to the executive director of the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Charlottesville. I said, "Hey, I want to come get involved in any way possible. Just let me know what I might do." And she invited me in for a tour and said, "We want someone who's lived in a Ronald McDonald House to be on our board. And even though you didn't live here, you get it, and we want you to be on our board." So, yeah, that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, I guess. I joined that board, and I've been giving back ever since. I was just over there this morning doing the annual review for our CEO. So, it's part of my life every single day. And that's how I got involved. And I think people on this, listening to this, who feel moved, should certainly reach out to the Philly house, or whatever your local, if you're not Philly, whatever your local house is, and ask to be involved. Most houses have a volunteer coordinator who can, get you involved in the mission. And I think, one last thing I'll say about it is, we live in such a polarizing political time. No matter how you feel, like it does definitely feels like we're, apart from each other at times, and things can be tense. And you're Ron McDonald House, it's like the most unassailable mission ever. I mean, it's just everyone loves it. And when you're in there, you feel all that outside tension and noise kind of go away, and you're just there doing something meaningful for an organization that's just, you know, as beautiful of a mission as you could imagine. And so I find it's a bit of a respite for me too from the grind of daily life and the outside noise that's, just kind of always around us. Um, yeah, that's why I'm involved.
And that's pretty cool. And I keep finding ways to insert myself into helping the Ronald McDonald House. Every time I go down there, it solidified, this community's choice to choose Ronald McDonald House this year. It's it's just there's nothing like it. Just the feeling of walking through the doors and spending time with the families and spending time with the children and just knowing that we're giving back, this gift of technology, so to speak, to such a worthy group of people that,
Hmm.
what we're doing is going to help this location for years and years and years to come. Um,
Absolutely.
it's really exciting, and I'm really proud to be a part of that. I've got a couple questions that are coming in. So I've
Yeah, of
got
course.
one. Yeah, so I've got one from LinkedIn. When you think back to the time in Philadelphia, what memories of the city or with the Ronald McDonald House staff stay with you the most?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the way that Philly, revolves around its sports teams, but also its sports teams kind of rally behind the city and the people in the city stands out the most. When Jack, quick story, when he was being treated on the third floor at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, they I think it was the month of June maybe adopted Gritty is this crazy orange mascot for the Philadelphia Flyers hockey team with these googly eyes and all these crazy antics. And but his name's Gritty. Philly is a gritty city, and being gritty also, I think, in that case is like these kids are tough. And so Gritty became the mascot of the third floor, and he was everywhere on the halls and the windows. And Jack, just he loved mascots to begin with. He kind of got enamored with what is this Gritty thing? Um, and so one day he was really sick. These chemotherapy treatments. He was on high dose chemotherapy. So you're talking about throwing up into a bowl every 30 minutes throughout the day, as a little child, and he was just miserable. And he was started talking about how much he loves Gritty and all these Gritty images, and how he'd really like a Gritty cake, like because his birthday was coming up. And so Emily, he kind of my wife said, "Hey, you could write Gritty a letter and tell him how you feel about him." And so she transcribed what he said, and it was very cute. I think he said, "I love you, Gritty," like 4 times in 7 sentences. And the Flyers caught wind of it, and on his fourth birthday, they surprised him in the dining area of the Ron McDonald House with his birthday party. Gritty being the featured element. Actually, if you Google Jack Callahan Gritty birthday, probably there's an ESPN feature story that was written at that time. It's really sweet. And that was really a standout memory of the city. I think also just being in Rittenhouse Square a lot. Jack couldn't be indoors when you're going through transplant, and it was a beautiful summer and fall, and we'd just go there and he'd play. And I met Audrey Evans, the founder of the Ron McDonald House, sitting in the square feeding squirrels. She lived on the square there. And that was an emotional and meaningful moment for me. So those were two things. And then I would just say about the staff, I think the mark of a great organization is longevity in the staff. And Susan Campbell, runs the house there as the CEO, but she's got a whole group of people that work there supporting the mission. And, they all of them, it seems like, are still there from when we lived there 6 years ago. So that really is impressive to me because it's a mark of an organization you can feel confident supporting. They have this stability, and they're so well run. And they're all really made for being inside that house every day. They're very great with the families, and I really appreciate them a lot.
Yeah. I did not get to meet Audrey, but I watched the documentary just so I could learn a bit more about the organization. And her story is amazing too. Like
Oh, absolutely.
it's I urge anybody that's not yet, checked out her story and the biography of her. She's a fascinating woman. So
Absolutely. Real inspiring, I think, for young women to, teens and stuff, to see what she faced and what she became. in her career and what she had to overcome. It's really inspiring.
Yeah. So I got a couple guys that are checking in. Joe Barnes from Virginia just wanted to say he had the opportunity to do some work with the Ronald McDonald House in Norfolk, Virginia, and what a group of wonderful people.
Hmm.
Carlos is just saying hi from Los Angeles. Hopefully, Carlos is coming out to this project. We haven't seen Carlos in a while. We miss him. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Jack
Um,
just went to a Dodgers game over spring break. He had
oh
a lot of
yeah,
fun there. Yep,
yeah,
yep. We went a baseball trip. So
that's cool. With that, it sounds like your son's a big baseball guy. How many stadiums have you guys seen?
this was our 11th.
Okay.
We flew to San Francisco, went to a Giants game, drove down to LA, went to an Angels and a Dodgers game. We're at the Angels game with a big brawl with the Braves. That was pretty memorable
Yep.
if you follow baseball. But
Yep.
yeah, we've been to 11, but Citizens Bank, we kind of go there almost every single year. Usually when we're back for clinic appointments and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, Philly is, again, I'm from Philadelphia, so for me, Philly's a great city, right? And I know, like you said earlier, Philly is a tough city. It's a gritty city, but at the heart of it, Philadelphia is just such an amazing
Hmm.
place. And Citizens Bank Park might be my favorite place in Philadelphia. Like the stadium is just it's
It
incredible.
is. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love sitting there on, a nice summer evening when he was going through treat because you could be outside and
Hmm.
seeing the skyline of the city. And the team was incredible. We went down to batting practice. We met a former player, Reese Hoskins, and talked to
Hmm.
him for a long time. And yeah, so the way everyone rallies, including you all, around the families of sick children, and the kids themselves is really special and really meaningful. I think so much of it is almost about the parents as much as the kid because you're suffering inside a lot as well. So, and the Phillies were great.
Yeah. Again, Philly guy, but the Phillies is such a great organization. I've got so many good stories of, just growing up, sitting with my grandfather watching the Phillies and just it's a great organization, always has been. I
Yep,
know there's a lot of people
absolutely.
on, a lot of fans from around the country will say differently about Philadelphia, but at the end of the day, we're the best sports city in the country. So I
Oh
mean, it is
yeah.
what it is.
I don't
So
disagree with that, even though I'm a Virginia guy and
yeah,
my allegiances are down south more in North Carolina, but Philly
yeah,
sports teams really captured my heart. I root for all of them, and I didn't
yeah,
used to. So
yeah. Well, we appreciate that. We'll take a fan anywhere we can get him. Um, so a couple more questions to keep coming through, if you don't mind and you have the time.
Yeah, of course, I got time.
Yeah. So we've got what kind of legacy do you hope that you leave behind with your efforts?
Well, I think for me personally, I want to support the Philadelphia House, obviously, because they meant so much to us, and I do that by telling my story. And I want to just raise as much awareness as I can about what the Ron McDonald House is. I really didn't know when Jack got sick what the house was. I thought it was for anyone who was sick and needed a place to stay. I didn't realize the history of childhood cancer and that it was for the families of sick children who had traveled long distances. I didn't know what being part of that community was like. So now I get it, and I want people to know about it, and I want to make sure this organization, it's 50 years old now, a little over that actually. I want to make
Mhm.
sure in 50 more years it's still a leading charity in the world. And you can't rest on your laurels. I'm fully committed to doing this and anything like this anytime I'm asked. But I think for me, the biggest legacy that I hope to leave, I don't really think about honestly the word legacy as much because I'm a steward of this thing. It was before me, it'll be after me. It's not about me. But I do want to help the Charlottesville, Virginia Ronald McDonald House grow. We have a need to about double in size, and so we're looking to gear up for a capital campaign, and we're working with an architect. And I hope one day, Jack and I can go and drive by it or stand there and look at it and know it's partially, something we did to help. Um, so that's what I want to do. Keep growing the organization everywhere I can.
That's really cool, and I can imagine. Does Jack have a good memory of being there? Like, does he have memories of being there through all of his treatments?
I don't think he as much as, kind of thankfully no, because it was so traumatic. he'll have little snippets of memories. Like he'll remember the gritty birthday party, which is a positive memory. He remembers being accessed because, children like Jack, they have a port under the skin of their chest, and they got to put a very large needle into it to deliver medicine and chemotherapy and stuff. So he remembers being scared of that. So that's a negative memory, but you're 3 and 4 years old. He doesn't really remember too much. And, he's kind of piecing it together now a little bit as he's 10, 11, like, oh, I could have died. I didn't know that. I just I had cancer. I didn't know what that meant. Now he knows, when we got to Philly, his odds at surviving were under 50%, according to the doctors. So, just how dire it was, something he never really knew before. So there's, he sees a therapist, and he's got a lot of anxiety related to that. And, we're getting through that. But fortunately, he doesn't remember too much of the day to day. I wanted to remember the Ronald McDonald House, but, unfortunately, not so much. And also not so much the treatment, very thankfully. Yeah.
So another question that we just got, and we're kind of jumping around because I want to
Yeah,
answer
of
the
course.
questions as they come through. What's the process look like to become able to stay at the Ronald McDonald House? How do you get to be able to stay there?
Great question. So, there's criteria you have to meet, like your child's being treated, you live far enough away from the house that you can stay there. But really what happens, it's not like a traditional hotel where you're booking out, 2 months in advance, because people are arriving in Philly without knowing that there's going to be a medical emergency. For instance, at our house in Charlottesville, we had a family visiting Virginia from Dallas, Texas, visiting Southside Virginia. Mother goes into labor, very premature, gets airlifted to UVA, is with us for 3 months. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen. So managing the rooms is a challenge because you never know when someone's coming or going. But so what you have to do is put in a room request. And that's facilitated by the social workers at the hospital, dealing with the social workers and the staff at the Ronald McDonald House. And then you also have to undergo a background check because these families are in a traumatic experience. The last thing you want is any kind of, negative situation at the house. So there's certain disqualifying background check things that you can't stay there, but most people can stay there. And when a room becomes available, you're notified that morning and you head on over. And then you're there as long as you need it, as long as your child's being treated, basically. So that's the process in general. It's really facilitated by the relationship between the people at the hospital and the people at the Ronald McDonald House that help get you situated.
Perfect. Somebody just commented again. We're jumping all over the place. The Toronto Stadium is really cool, especially if you can get there.
Yeah. I want to see that one. I think you can stay in a hotel in the outfield. Like,
that's what it said.
Out over the field. Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Let me see. Another question that we got here. How do you personally balance leading a business and serving others while you're still having time for the family?
Yeah. Well, when Jack was sick, there really wasn't time for business. I mean, I really had to step fully aside and didn't have any income there for a very extended period of time. And that's the case for a lot of the families staying there. A lot of them are away from their jobs on medical leave. Some are lucky to be paid, a lot aren't. But nowadays, so I'm very lucky in that my spouse has a good career and job that supports our family. And so I actually kind of work on an hourly basis, and that I do that in part so that I can just, when I need it, take the time to go over and support the Ronald McDonald House in that capacity I have. So I'd say I find balance by kind of forcing it. This means enough to me to give my time to it, and so I find a way. In the present day, that is.
Perfect. So we've got a nerd question for you.
Yeah.
Because we're all a bunch of tech geeks, right?
Yes, I'm not, by the way. I'm lucky if I can turn my television on, but
so we'll try to answer this question how you can. So knowing that we are bringing this gift of technology to the Ronald McDonald House to help the families while they're there, how do you see, technology helping the families while they're at Ronald McDonald House?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways. I mean, there's entertainment. I mean, for one, it's long days, and a lot of these kids are, um, you know, connected to a pole, or you just got to find ways to bring them some entertainment. Some people are working remotely from the Ronald McDonald House, sneaking in work where they can, and so they need the capability to connect with colleagues around the country, stay connected to their careers. Um, I also think, and I'm thinking a little bit like, audio visual type technology stuff, but I also think like there's something with, you know, connection back to the hospital. Like a lot of times the child's hospitalized and there might be two parents and one's at the house and one's at the hospital. And so kind of staying connected somehow um, is important. I also think, and I'm going to go a little bit like outside the lines with this last thought. A really good friend of mine, his son was diagnosed with cancer this like the same month as mine. His name is Neil Piper. And he had a background working in pharmaceuticals and medical sales and stuff. And he saw that a lot of kids with cancer or other illnesses have a G tube. So they're fed through a tube into their stomach. And the system is so antiquated. It's like gravity fed. You're either wearing a backpack or the food's on a big pole and it's dripping into your belly. He was inspired to create a medical device company called Luminoa, which just got FDA approval. And that is kind of a technology that's transforming how these kids are fed that need a G tube so that they can be mobile. So that's probably a different technology than the question was commenting on, but I think there's like a lot of space in medical technology. And that's also has communication elements where it tells the doctor like how much the child's been fed that day, So there's all kinds of ways technology can help, but communication, staying in touch, medical devices and support, like those are some big ones in my mind.
So we got another one. This is from Gina. Can you please share a bit about what TKW plans to do through TextGiving and how that would translate into supporting family, especially since a lot of what we do is behind the scenes? Absolutely, Gina. So we'd like to consider, and somebody said this on a podcast I was on, not too long ago. The best way to describe TextGiving is Extreme Home Makeover Nerd Edition. So, we're going to have, a bunch of technicians from all around the country come to help rebuild the technology of the Ronald McDonald House. And what that looks like is new door locks on the doors because it's like a hotel. So if you remember when you were there, you probably had to present a fob up to a door to get into the rooms. We're looking at increasing their security around the property just to make sure the families are safer. Better Wi-Fi throughout the entire property. Now, the Wi-Fi there is pretty good, but we want to be able to expand upon that. So when the families are in the rooms, they can communicate with their families that are at home, or just as you mentioned, communicating with the hospital or communicating with your other family members that might be at the hospital while you're staying in the house.
Yeah.
And just other things like, security cameras and other locations that maybe parts of the building aren't completely covered yet. They've expanded upon, I don't know the last time you were at the Ronald McDonald House, but they have this whole outdoor beautiful area now.
Oh yeah.
That, we want to make sure that we're covering Wi-Fi outdoors, right? Because when it's beautiful out, you want to be outside, but maybe you want to work while you're there. So being out there and, being able to use technology and, also it is downtown Philadelphia. We want to make sure that cameras are capturing anything that may need to happen.
Yeah.
So, that was a great point, Gina. So
I think that's all great. I think it's wonderful because I hope that the Ronald McDonald House has technology above and beyond any other place you could ever stay. Really giving these families the best is important. So thank you all for doing that.
Yeah, it's it's something that we love to do. This is our fifth one actually this year, and it's kind of, kismet is a word that somebody said to me because that is not a word that would ever come out of my mouth properly. But it's like you said, it's the 50th anniversary for Ronald McDonald House. It's the, 150th or 50th celebration of Philadelphia year. So they're doing 52 weeks of firsts in Philadelphia, and Ronald
Mm-hmm.
McDonald House is obviously one of those. It's our 5th year of doing this project. So it's really cool that this whole thing is coming full circle. You know, we
Yeah.
started this organization 5 years ago with the mission to be able to give back to communities in need. And, you know, the Ronald McDonald, I could not think of a better recipient than the Ronald McDonald House. So I'm really, you know, happy that our community chose them this year, which is
You
really
know,
cool.
and yeah, that's wonderful. And I will say one last thing came to mind for me, especially on that second floor and that second floor playroom of the Ronald McDonald House, which is
Mhm.
where the most vulnerable populations are in terms of their risk infection and whatnot. Some of them are really isolated. Technology can break through that isolation a bit, so that's important too, to them not feeling alone.
No, that's a really good point, and I'm hoping that we can do that in many ways to help them feel.
Absolutely.
That's great. Looking through here, I got a couple more questions.
Sure.
What did you learn about yourself and how it may shape your life going forward while staying there?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I think you realize how much stronger you can be than you thought you could be. I had parents say things to me like I couldn't survive if that happened to me, or I would run and hide, or whatever. And you don't like you rally to the moment because your child's life depends on it. So you realize how strong you are. I think and that kind of sounds cliche, but it's so true. Like you don't know what you can bear until you're forced to bear it. Um, I think I learned what PTSD feels like, and we all deal with it. I think when your child has cancer and how that affects you in an ongoing way. Um, and I think also you realize just how much of your life you're spending worried about or pursuing things that really aren't that important in the grand scheme of things. And that's kind of a gift because it reshaped my relationship to community. It reshaped my relationship to work. What really matters in life is my family and my community, and most everything else is secondary, even career. And you really, I guess I woke up to that through this experience, and I've so I'm the head coach of the little league team. I'm on the board of the Ron McDonald now. Yeah, these things take a lot of time and effort, but I do them with joy because I didn't know that I get to do any of these things. So I think that's really what you learn in those moments. It may sound strange to say I feel thankful for the journey because I would not want to ever go through it, and I wish we didn't have to, and I would have gladly traded places with my son. But you look back on it a few years later, and you're like, I feel pretty thankful for the change in perspective and the closeness of my family that came from this.
Do you have any other children, Mike?
No, just Jack.
Okay.
Yeah, so that especially made the moment even more important to me because I could have lost everything.
I'm I'm trying to hold back some feelings and emotions here. You didn't make this
Yeah.
easy. Um,
It's tough, man. I mean, it's so, it's one thing you get okay with tears and, grown men sobbing and giving each other a hug. I mean, you see a lot of that in the Ronald McDonald House, and it's cool to be in a place where that's okay,
yeah,
you know.
and I think we're gonna have a lot of group hugs when we're all there, and I'm looking forward to it.
I hope you do.
Yeah. Um, I only think we've got one more here. Let me see here. I just want to make sure I didn't read them all to you. Um, no, I think I nailed most of the ones that
Yeah.
came through. A couple people are just chiming in that they're really looking forward to coming. Um, I guess some final thoughts. If you could talk to our community directly and say to them like, "This is why you should go, and this is why you should be a part of this event," what would you tell our members?
Well, I think going back to maybe some of my earlier comments about the state of the world sometimes, and um, you know, I, I think everything sometimes out there feels chaotic, and there's so much change happening, and there's a lot of anxiety, and you know, I just think if you go into a Ronald McDonald House and you are immersed in that community and surrounded by that community, you can't help but be given some perspective on your own life, maybe, and in the world. I think you're going to come away from it feeling more positive about humanity, as crazy as that is, like, sounds maybe like you're going to really feel better about your fellow humans when you see what people are doing to support these families, what the staff's doing, what social workers are doing, what these volunteers are doing, what these families are doing for each other. So, if you want a self-centered reason, and that's okay, like, to go, it's going to make you feel good. It's going to make you feel better about the world, for one. And then if you want a more external, reason, it's like these families really depend on people being willing to volunteer, whether it's upgrading the technology of the house and making it a, top-notch technology. If it's, making a meal there, and you may decide you want to continue on volunteering, you could drive the shuttle between the house and the hospital. There's all kinds of things you can do, but it really depends on volunteers, to keep going. And I think, unfortunately, volunteerism has declined over decades. And I think that's too bad. Maybe it's a symptom of us all feeling so busy. It's like, I can't add one more thing. But this is something that will really give a lot more than it takes away from you. I guarantee you of that. So go be involved, and hopefully be inspired, and find a place that you feel better about this world we're all sharing.
That was really cool, and I'm not going to add to that because if I do, I'll just ruin it. So no, I appreciate that. I guess the leaving notes that we'll leave with, because we're at about the hour, is our mission of TKW is giving back, and we're really excited about being able to do that. Year over year, we've done this, and each project gets bigger and more grandiose and more exciting. But ultimately, it's because our community is a group of volunteers that really does love what we do at a core level, to come out. So I know that, like you said, volunteerism is dwindling, but I think TKW proves that there are still a lot of really good people in this world. And Ronald McDonald House proves there's a lot of really good people in this world that want to use their skills and their talents to give back to others, complete strangers that maybe they don't know. And I think that's really powerful.
Absolutely. And these families, they may not, some of them will thank you, I'm sure. Others may not. You may never interact with them, but you will be making their lives better. And they're the most deserving people in the world of that, because they're people who are worried about losing everything that, they cherish. So, yeah, I mean, go and feel good about what you've done. It's making a difference, whether someone says thank you or not. They notice, they know, and the staff knows. And you're making their lives better too. Don't forget, like, you're going to meet some people there. You're like, gosh, that guy could be probably making 10 times as much money going and doing something else with his life or her life, but really cares about this mission and really feels good about their work and has dedicated themselves something bigger than, the pursuit of money or a big career. They're doing really important work and have amazing careers, but they've all decided to do this because of how much they care about this mission, and they deserve good things as well in their day to make their day-to-day work life better. So don't forget that either. You're helping that, that really dedicated staff as well.
So I've gotten a few of these on the screen, and we're almost done here. But a couple people keep saying, can Jack come to the ceremony? Can you guys come? We would love to invite you and your family if you're able to attend in October when we do this event. If you and your family wanted to be there, we'd love to have you there.
We'd love to join you. My brother actually lives in Havertown, so we're always looking for reasons to go up to Philly and see my three nieces. So Yeah, let us know the date. Jack's birthday is October 30th.
Okay.
So, a little birthday, trip. Maybe the Phillies will be in the World Series. Who knows?
Oof.
But not looking like it right now, but you never know. So yeah, we'd be honored to join you guys if it works with our calendars, and I'm sure this far out we can make that work. I always love seeing the staff there too. It's been too long since I've seen some of them. So
So actually, the event is right near his birthday. It's the week before, so October
okay,
23rd through the 25th.
that should
Um,
work. Yeah.
so we will make sure to have a cake for him. Absolutely.
Okay.
That would be
That's
really
great.
cool. We're looking forward
That's
to meeting
great.
Jack.
Yeah, when Jack was sick, a good friend of mine who owns a running company, running shop here in town, started an event called Jack Fest to help us out. Big festival, and now it benefits the Ronald McDonald House in Charlottesville. So Jack Fest is October 18th. So we'll be very
Okay.
focused on that event, and then afterwards, maybe we'll hop in the car and come to Philly. That'd be awesome.
That's super cool.
Love for y'all to meet Jack, and Jack always loves being in the Ronald McDonald House.
Cool. So I guess, with that being said, we'll wrap up here. For anybody that's been listening to the story, thank you for taking your time out today to listen to to Mike's story. I'm sorry. And hear a little bit about TKW. If you're interested in joining our community, it's absolutely 100% free. You can just go to the link that's up on the screen, join.techknowledge.org. If you want to be a part of coming to the Techsgiving event, again, it's just go to our website, techsgiving.org. There's registration forms. We've got discounted hotels. And it being Philadelphia, I can promise you, as a Philadelphia native, I will show you a good time while you're here. I will put you to work, but I will show you a very good time while you're here. And if anybody hears this story and is thinking about ways that they can help, we've got a donation page. We obviously need funds to make sure that we can give Ronald McDonald House everything they deserve for their families. So please reach out. You can find me on socials. I'm all over the place. Mike, any parting words before we let you go?
I think we've covered a lot of ground. I hope you all learn, what this organization's all about, why it's so important, and thank you for listening in and taking an hour out of your day to learn about it. And for those that are participating in the event, thank you. Um, you know, I hope you all will learn more about the Ronald McDonald House and consider making it part of your life. I think you and the families will be better for it. So thank you so much. Gratitude is the overwhelming feeling I feel about the Ronald McDonald House and anyone that gets involved supporting it. Thanks to you too, Ray. Really appreciate this opportunity.
No, and thank you for your time, and we're really looking forward to meeting you and Jack in Philadelphia in just a few short months. So
Sweet.
thank you, Mike. Thank you again, Mike Callanan, everybody. We appreciate you. We'll see you
Bye,
soon.
everyone.
All
All
right.
righty.
Thank you.